All right. Episode 70.
7-0.
Mike Chandler. Michael? Mike.
Whatever.
Either one?
Yeah, either. Michael, but my Instagram's Mike, so
Mike,
I was
okay.
like, people can't tell people I can't.
What's your mom call you if you're in trouble?
Michael.
Michael?
Yeah, I went through that phase where, when I was in middle school and I tried to be cool, I was like, I want to be called Mike.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I like Michael.
Yeah.
Michael's cool.
Yeah, same. I
Cooler.
was Richie to all my family, and I hated that as a child. And now I'm like, if some of my family still calls me that, it doesn't bother me, but
Yeah, right?
it bothers
Isn't
my
that funny?
dad more than anything. He hates it.
It's funny, right?
He hates it when you get called Richie?
He hates when he hated it apparently as a kid, being called Richie.
Oh.
And so now he's like, don't call him that. I'm like, it doesn't really actually bother me because his aunt, Mary Evelyn, Braden's mom,
Okay.
she called him Richie, and until the day she died, and he hated it. But
Oh, wow.
I think she did it just to spite him too. But yeah, he hates it.
My name is James.
Yeah.
That's my legal name. But no one except for my mother calls me that.
James.
And when I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Richard Lyle. That's
James.
usually my
James, don't you dare.
Richard Lyle?
Richard
Put
Lyle.
that down, James.
Richard Lyle. That was the.
What about you? What's your real name?
My real name.
Huh?
It's Kristen Marie, right?
Kristen. Nope, Michelle.
No, Michelle.
Kristen
Yeah.
Michelle.
Everybody else was
Can't be
Marie.
right.
Like
Yeah, that's
Tasia's
like
Marie.
a that's a very
Isn't
common.
Ellie? I don't remember if Ellie is or not. But we had at one point like
Eleanor.
everybody was Marie.
Eleanor.
Yeah, but middle name.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
Can't remember.
What's Lake's middle name? Lakeland, what's your
Lakeland?
middle
What's
name?
her name? Do you know? Ann.
Lakeland Ann.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Lakeland Ann Froning. When's your birthday? July 7th. You're right.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. That's coming up.
Nice.
How old are you
Oh
going to
yeah,
be? 5
Nice.
years old.
5 years old. Holy cow!
You're getting old. Getting old. You're getting old.
It's all
Dang.
downhill from there.
Yep. Yep.
Seriously.
Now to the real world.
Let's not talk about getting old.
Oh yeah.
You see kids like that, and you're just like, oh, yeah, I'm almost dead.
Yeah. On the other
Holy
side.
smokes.
On the other side.
Definitely on the downhill
Well,
side.
Haley made an interesting comment that, like, from my age to her age, if you were to take her age to Lakeland's age, it's the same increment of time.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
That's depressing.
Right?
I don't know.
Holy cow.
I don't know how we got started talking about
Well, that's
this.
how
but we
I
should-
mean,
I was just
I
like,
train
wow,
with I
my
train
mind
with
is
like
blown.
18-year-olds, and you're
Do
like,
you?
holy cow, you got your whole life ahead of you, man.
Yeah.
You got your whole life ahead of you, man.
Yeah, we've corrupted several 18-year-olds that hung around. They're all
Yeah.
broken and whatever else. So
yeah, there's two that will never recover.
never recovered.
Did
It
really
wasn't,
well.
our, it wasn't our fault, though.
No, it's
they were,
not.
They were broken before that.
Yeah.
We tried to impart some knowledge on them. They just wouldn't take it.
You get some kids charging into the gym, 18 years old and want to get after it. Just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's really no, these days, since the sport of mixed martial arts has grown exponentially, you got to make sure, like most gyms, just like you guys, you can't have some young kid with no form throw 225 on the bar and
Right.
break his back in half.
Right.
So obviously, if an 18-year-old rolls in, he's not going to spar with the pros. And the team I train with down in Florida, we almost have 2 training sessions now where kind of the amateur fighters or kind of entry-level pro fighters, if you only have a couple pro fights, you will do your own sparring session before the pros who are kind of fighting in the big shows
Right.
have their own sparring session too. So got to do that.
Yeah, heck yeah. Yeah, you should ask Dre about his. They went to some MMA classes. Remember him
Oh,
and
yeah.
Angelo?
Yeah,
And,
yeah. I was gonna say
Angelo,
something with him
twisted his
standing there,
ankle
but then,
and
yeah.
something like
Here
that. When he
in
did-
town?
They
Yeah.
got injured when they went on
Yeah,
training.
it was just like a MMA fitness class
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever. But I think they did some sparring and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But neither
Gosh.
one of them have any. I mean, Dre has a football background, so he thought he could fight, I guess. But yeah, they were all like, it was like Tuesdays or Thursday nights. They'd all, no, we can't train. We got to go. We're going to MMA class. And I
Gonna
was
do
like,
some BJJ,
yeah.
some boxing.
So
I come from a Taekwondo, like point sparring background. And then I did that for a lot of years. And then I kind of quit doing it. And I thought, well, yeah, I was in my maybe early 30s. I'm going to go back and maybe get into some MMA stuff. And so I got real quiet, didn't say anything about I wanted to go into this MMA gym and just kind of be there and start from the bottom, And the bottom line is the dude's wife kicked my ass. Like,
Remember you
Not the
telling me
dude, but
that
the dude's
story?
wife.
all
She
the
was
new
like 30
people,
pounds,
like
50 pounds lighter
there's
than
this. So the first thing was, I know nothing about jiu-jitsu, just point sparring, which is really honestly all not that practical when it comes to fighting. But first thing is we're going to roll a little bit, right? And so then I'm like, there's this little tiny woman who's like 112 pounds. Mm-hmm. And I really thought, oh my God, I might break her. Like if I grab hold of her. That's not at all what happened. No. She was like, excuse me, sir, you can't put your head there. Just go ahead and tap. If you can't breathe, just tap. She just was all over me.
Just spider monkey.
And then they put boxing gloves on and she just knocked me all over the ring. And I was like, okay.
And I'm done.
I don't want to be hurt anymore.
Glad that was a free class. I'm out of here. First class free.
Hey, you know what? We didn't even. Will you kind of talk about who you are real quick?
Yeah,
we didn't really introduce you, and CrossFitters are going to be watching this. And
CrossFitters are going to be watching this. I mean, so my name is Michael Chandler. I fight for Bellator, so I'm a professional mixed martial artist, 3-time Bellator World Champion. So I've won the belt, lost the belt, won the belt, lost the belt a couple different times. I've been fighting for almost 10 years. I wrestled in college, so I got into the sport of mixed martial arts through the sport of wrestling. Wrestled at Mizzou, and then now I'm a father, a husband, a gym owner in Nashville, and still continuing to fight. Still got some good years ahead of me, and excited to see where it takes me.
That's awesome.
And I did a workout this morning with
two workouts.
I did 2 workouts with the people in the CrossFit world, and almost died a few times. So I ate some humble pie this morning and sucked down some lake water,
some pond water,
and my hands hurt. So
if we got into the octagon, I'd have a feeling it'd be the same.
But it was good, you know. And that's what. Well, but that's what I said too. And you know, my video guy Marcos was there, and he's like, "Hey, I want to give you some audio." And I said, "Well, the only thing I really want to say is I didn't come here to get a better power clean. I didn't come here to be better on the rings or this or that. I came here to be surrounded by like-minded people people at the top 1% of their craft, people who are pushing themselves to their full limits and trying to reach their full potential. I actually heard something yesterday, an old Jim Rohn quote. He said that human beings are the only living, breathing organism on planet Earth that don't actually reach their full potential. You've never seen a tree not grow to its fullest potential. You know, you've never seen a flower not reach its most beautiful form. But for some reason, human beings, we put this limit on ourselves, and I'm like, I don't want to do that because I have a feeling we're all going to have regrets. That last time that you take off your stick, you're like, man, I should have done this or I should have done that. Yeah. So if you can minimize that by surrounding yourself with the best people possible,
makes sense.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
So I ate some humble pie this morning.
You did great.
I'll take it.
Never once was like, no, I can't do that. And he was just like, all right. And I mean, we've had a couple crossover people that are like, I think I'm gonna do this and blah blah blah. And we actually had to tell you, hey, let's back it down a little bit. So it's good. It's good.
Well, I was touching the bottom of the pond way too many times. I thought you guys were gonna see this big mud trail behind me. They'd be like, dang, the new guy's over there is muddying up the waters.
Swimming is something, man. If you don't do it, you just and if you've never really done it, you know, not anybody, but you can swim and survive, but to actually be efficient at it, it takes a lot of work and a lot of time in the water, and we do that a lot.
Which is cool.
So, yeah, it's what I like about it is it doesn't beat you up like we were talking. You know, you can get a hard workout in, but you feel like crap while you're doing it, but when it's over, you feel a little bit better.
Yeah. I felt like jello-y, but not jello-y, like I just got beat up.
Yeah,
so it's nice.
The breathing piece is the challenge initially until you're used to the water.
Yeah, and just knowing that, hey, all I have to do is turn my head to breathe, I think is a big thing. A lot of people start to panic and get like, oh, I'm going to drown, you know, where it's just like all you got to do, as long as you can keep your head above water, you'll be fine. You know, last week when we were out at Bob's, it was super choppy. So we have
that was crazy, huh?
A gym member that he's got this beautiful spot out in Crossville on Holiday Lake, and he's got this house that overlooks the water. It's got decks out on the water. He's got this gym up on this little hill that overlooks the water. It's amazing. And so we'll go up there on Thursdays and swim, and he sets out buoys and all this stuff. But last week, man, it was super windy, and so one way you felt great, and then coming back, you literally. Like, I was uncomfortable a couple of times, so, I mean, I'm super comfortable in the water, so I was more frustrated, I guess, than uncomfortable. I was just, like, pissed off. Every time you'd go to breathe, you'd hit a wave and hit a wave and hit a wave. Yeah, you're just like, okay, let's get this over.
Well, your journey in the water has been one where you started back in the day not being comfortable, and now.
Yeah, I panicked. I had a real panic moment. In one event in the water, in
an actual competition,
in the games.
Worst case scenario,
awful.
Worst case scenario,
awful. And it was in a pool.
Did you know was it one of the ones where they had just introduced the water?
We'd done a couple actual swim events, beach swims, and usually they were the beginning of an event, and you can kind of get through it then. And there was enough people, and they weren't that great at swimming. This was in a pool, and there was mixed with stuff, kind of like what we did today with the squats.
Yeah.
And it was bar muscle ups, and it was in the pool, and I just looked like a complete idiot. And it was super frustrating, and there were some times where I was like, you look down and you could see the bottom of the pool, and this was a deep pool. It was like probably 15 feet to the bottom because it was like a diving pool.
Okay.
And you're like, I might die.
Yeah,
I'm
going under.
I'm not going to die, but you're thinking it.
Right.
So it's
on national television.
On national,
nonetheless.
yeah, exactly. I have a lot of those just failed moments. I'm sure you have a lot of those too.
Yeah, I got a few of them.
Like that, our failures are completely public most of the time. That's the fun part of what we do.
I think that when we're talking about parallels, I was really wanting to get you guys together on a podcast because you have so many parallels in so many ways, whether it's your faith or your family, adoption. And I want to talk about all that for sure. But man, if you're going to fail, and when you guys
it's
have,
always on the
it's been on
stage.
the biggest stage on the planet, and it's on YouTube, and people see it. And
forever. It's a gift. It's a nice big gift. Yeah.
I think and both of you have so many good things to say about how to handle that, though, which is really cool. And I think that's what's important. Like, talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things I try to live by is always living a life that I am always putting myself into the fire, and if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail while daring greatly. And it's just like you guys. You guys are only, I mean, CrossFit is so huge, and there's the casual fan of the athletes, there's the casual fan of the actual environment of CrossFit, but nobody's ever, not nobody, but so few people will ever experience
the tip of the spear.
This, right? And it's the same thing with mixed martial arts. So few people will ever step into a cage with millions of people watching on TV in an arena across the cage from somebody who's about to rip his head off, and there's something desirable about that, but I'm put into that position, and I've been in, obviously you've been in the huge triumphs, but you can't enjoy the happiness and the spoils and the fruits of your labor whenever you win without also accepting when you lose, without going out on your shield. I mean, my last fight was May 11th, it was a little over a month ago. Got TKO'd in a minute and 20 seconds, Now, does that mean I was not better than that guy? No. I just I got clipped behind the ear, and God created the body where if you get hit in certain spots, you go down. I've been in that on the other end of that scenario a couple times too, where I just hit a guy, boom, he goes down, and I get to collect a paycheck, kiss my wife, and go, sail off into the sunset. It's nice. So you have to accept it. You have to accept. You can't, like I said, enjoy all the highs without also accepting the lows and taking it graciously, because I think, truthfully, you win a fight, or you win the CrossFit Games, or you win one of these big events, and you get the praise, and you get the hand claps, and you get the excitement of the accomplishment. But I've never been so fulfilled as after this last fight, because it was on the biggest stage and the biggest following now, and it was a big fight. But the way that I handled the loss and my post-fight speech, I got more positive comments about the way that I handled it. When everybody saw me go out on my shield, everybody saw me out there embarrassed and downtrodden and just in a bad spot. But I was able to speak life into that loss, and because it's all about how you bounce back from those losses. So
I know you've told your story, and to me, it's my favorite part about what you have to say about falling off the rope. I think it's so powerful. Yeah. And it set the entire tone. Yeah, for the rest of for all of this. Right. Epic failure, which you would say.
Super. It was getting second place. Everybody thought, that's a win in most people's book at first year competing, but not for me. I was and it's kind of the opposite. I was in a dark place and actually couldn't stand doing what I was doing anymore. And for me, what had happened is I'd let my identity become CrossFit. CrossFit had become who I was. And, I'd grown up in my faith, but it wasn't a huge part of what I did. I'd pray and I'd read, but it was more of like a selfish, what can I get out of it type deal. And luckily I had some good friends and some good mentors that kind of pointed me in the right direction and were like, hey, CrossFit isn't what defines you as a human being. It's Christ and what he did. And for me, that was huge and and very freeing. Not that I don't believe that, God has helped me win or do any of that stuff. Has he put me in the right positions and stuff like that? Yeah, for sure. But I don't think, God necessarily dictates outcomes. However, the fact of knowing that, I'm going to be okay, win or lose, that all was very freeing for me and very let's go out here and just do our best and do our work, and we'll be all right on the other side no matter the outcome. So for me, that was huge.
I mean, that's too for me. What I always say too, and I say it, and people kind of chuckle when I say it, but no matter what, win or lose, my family still loves me, my God still loves me, and I still love me, and that's really all that matters. And we can make this life and these sports and the being in the public eye and all this kind of stuff so complicated and so big and so complex, when really you're just a couple pounds of flesh and bones, and you're just a human being like everyone else. You want to be loved. You want to have something to believe in, and you want to try to become your best. And you can't truly become your best without failing. Yeah, and just failing forward.
Or at least pushing those limits, and being in discomfort, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, what does all that matter? None of that matters except for your family, your faith, and what you got. So, because eventually it'll all be gone. That's the one thing is people, you forget about people when they're not in the spotlight,
How do you handle just the competitive nature of what's required? Because you've got to be that guy that's way out there on the edge, and you can't. I don't think you probably like to lose.
I do not like to lose. It is weird though too for for me, I do not like to lose, so I don't want the way that I handled my last loss be indicative of how much I disliked losing. Right. I handled it with grace, I handled it with composure, and I handled it, and it ended up impacting a ton of people. But I hated it. Yeah, I lost sleep over it. I cried about it. It's all of those emotions. It's all part of it, because with a fight too, there's so much buildup, and there's so much pre-fight hype, and there's so much that comes to this culmination, and you either win or lose. There's only one outcome, really. I dislike losing, but I also realize it's part of the process. And I think the good thing about mixed martial arts is nobody's undefeated, nobody's perfect, Right. And the older I've gotten, the more I realize that these losses were just learning experiences, and truthfully, I've lost now 5 times in my career, and somehow every single time I lose, I feel like my platform actually grew. In the sport of mixed martial arts, because people know me and they know my fights. They know I go there, I bow down on my mouthpiece, and I get into a fist fight, and it's always fun. It's always exciting. It's always people on the edge of their seats. So with that, you really can't lose. The outcome was an L on my record, but my record is not about the history books. My record is my actual record is who I am as a man, who I am as a father, who I am as a husband. That's what I want people to really care about. But yeah, it stings. It's not a good thing, but I had a eerie, peaceful feeling after this last one, But I still have the fire. I'm still going to come back and I'm going to get the belt back, and that's for darn sure. So it's riding that fine line of being okay with it, accepting it, realizing, like you said, God's not necessarily in charge or in control of the outcome,
right?
But who you are through Him is and how you handle those things can make a huge impact, win or lose.
Talk a little bit about just kind of probably the most competitive person I've ever been around is that guy, as far as my experience in life. Talk a little bit about how you keep that in focus.
I mean, I hate losing. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be just us down here. And I get embarrassed. I was talking to somebody, but I get embarrassed. And even if it's just us two, like I did, for some reason, I grew up, and I've told the story 100 times, but I'm one of 32 first cousins, 25 of us are boys. So there's a lot of comparisons, a lot of testosterone at any family get together. And just my whole life, it didn't matter what it was. I hate losing. And, I wouldn't, the saying that you hate losing more than you like winning is 100% true. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy winning, but at the end of the day, any time that I won the CrossFit Games, it was like the next morning it was like Christmas when you're a kid, and you're just, all right, what's next year? What can I get next year for Christmas? So, it doesn't matter what it is, and it's hard for me. And that's something that I've had to, I've gotten second twice, and we don't talk much about those now, especially, but we had the silver medal that hung up in the barn for a year that, right underneath the whiteboard where we wrote up the workouts, that it was there for everybody to see. Now it's in the closet over there with the rest of my gold medals, because I don't really care about those. Maybe in a couple of years when I'm done, that stuff will come out. But I hate losing with a passion.
It is interesting too. I'm the same way. I have my belts, but I always talk about the belts as just 15 pounds of gold and leather, but they're gonna tarnish and they're gonna end. And I feel like, yes, when I'm done competing, they'll have much more meaning.
Heck yeah,
right now it's like, forget those things. I'm focused on
not done
the
yet.
next.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
the
not
next
done
one.
yet. Yeah, it's the same way. There for a while, we had a little scare when we moved from our old house. I would just put them in the closet behind the door. I had like a coat rack, and I just had them on there and forgot about them. Well, Hillary had taken a few and put them. She was going to make shadow boxes. She's already started a couple of shadow boxes with them.
Nice.
But they were in just a Walmart bag in the garage. And when we moved, I hate clutter and I hate junk, and so when we moved, I started started throwing stuff away.
Oh wow!
And I just happened to look, and something told me, look in this box before you chuck it or give it to Goodwill. Sure enough, there was like 3 or 4 medals in there.
What if you would have put it at Goodwill here in Cookeville? So someone would have called you. Somebody would have said, "Yo,
Hillary,
Rich, are you sure you want to?"
Killed me, because half the time, I've got we get so many shirts and stuff, and I'm sure you're the same way, where you're like, man, I can only have one of the same I have multiples of the same shirt, and so I'll go through my closet every probably couple months and I'll just throw away stuff. Hillary gets so mad. She's like, why are you getting rid of that? And I'm like, it's literally just like it's a Mayhem shirt or a Rogue shirt, whatever.
I know.
And she's like, well, what if our kids want that? I'm like, they're going to have plenty of stuff to have. If it has my name on it, like a Froning, if it's a jersey or something, I'll keep it. She goes, well, I saw somebody wearing some Froning stuff. And I'm like, either they bought it or,
she was mad at you because she's like, you took some stuff to Goodwill, didn't you?
That's the way she is. I'm like, son of a.
Well, I've seen you on multiple times, take a whole bunch of clothes down in the gym and put it on the floor and just let people get it.
There's nothing better than that, man. No. I love that. I mean, I give away so much gear and so much clothes. I
don't need that stuff.
It's the same thing. When did you get into CrossFit?
2010.
But how old were you?
22.
So
22.
So you probably and in CrossFit too, it's mainly clothes. But for mixed martial arts, it's 4 or 5 different types of gloves. Your MMA gloves, your MMA sparring gloves, your boxing gloves, your mitt gloves, your shin guards, your wrestling shit. So we have all this equipment. And my first pair of boxing gloves was from Tyron Woodley.
That's cool.
My first pair of MMA gloves was from Ben Askren. We hand things down in mixed martial arts. So I love that it's like, I got all this junk, and not junk. It's never junk. One man's junk is another man's treasure.
I trash most of my stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually I'll have one pair of shoes that I just wear till they fall apart.
What size are you, man?
10.5. What are you?
Shoot, I'm a 9. God. Real CrossFit shoes. Dang it. I'm 33 years old trying to take hand-me-downs.
I have some 9s out in the garage.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, we can check.
What do you think about CrossFit athletes? I mean, what's kind of your... You've watched it a little bit, and
I have, and I've gotten into multiple debates, and I think it's almost, I think because CrossFit is such a big thing and it's become so commercialized, if you will, that people downplay, at least people that I've talked to, because I think CrossFit athletes are the best athletes in the entire world when it comes to endurance and strength and cardio and mixing all of it, and I've gotten into debates with people about it, and I think the only thing that works against CrossFit is the fact that it has become so big, and then people have CrossFit, you get hurt and this, that, and the other thing. And yeah, you get hurt in every type of sport.
Everything, yeah. And if you look at it as a sport, yes, CrossFit, you get hurt. But, if you go to a good gym that they're not trying to compete, you're just talking about the everyday person that's just trying to get fit. You get more hurt running because of the repetitive nature of running and, doing the same thing over and over. So I just hate that.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Of course, exactly. And that's why me, as a wrestler, which we were talking, I think wrestling is the hardest sport in the entire world because obviously I'm biased, right?
No, but I mean, a lot of my cousins wrestled. They're from Michigan.
Yeah. Nice.
And man, we'd get in wrestling matches and stuff, and you're so gassed by 1 minute. You're
it's
like,
so
what
crazy.
the heck is going on?
Yeah, and the same thing with mixed martial arts. When you're in your peak performance position, or your peak cardio shape, if I put a pair of boxing gloves on you and I hold mitts for you, you're going to get tired. But it's just all learning the specialty, right? But I do think, and I love that. I don't know if you love it, but I love that CrossFit has added water and added bike.
I think
and
it's
added,
great. I think the more
know,
stuff that we can do and the more challenges that we have, I think the better off it is. And you have to, and I think it's just different. I would say yes, we're probably the fittest. I wouldn't go as far as to say we're the best athletes. A lot of the guys that I know or girls that I know, you get them out doing anything other than fitness-related activities. It's pretty comical.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, because I'm being honest. Like, they're some of the fittest individuals. Like, as far as different time modalities and different stimuluses and all that type of stuff. Strongest. I get what you're saying. But as far as athletes go, there are some really good athletes in the sport, and I'd say some of the top ones are really good athletes, but man, if you try to get some of them to even throw a ball, like there's been a couple. We had one event we had to throw a ball, and luckily growing up, I played a lot of different sports, and that's one thing I tell kids now is play as many different sports as you can. But watching some of these people try to throw a ball, you're like,
I see what you're saying.
What?
There,
So
Same thing with MMA.
Yeah,
man. I got some guys that you're sparring with, and all of a sudden you break out a football, and you're like, they're falling all over themselves, and they can't even chew bubble gum and walk at the same time. You're like, what in the heck? How are you a world champion fighter, man?
Right.
It's hard to really compare different sports and all that stuff when you really think about it. Because I mean, there's probably a ton of NFL guys that. I think they had Kevin Durant do the NBA combine, and he couldn't bench press 185. I mean, that was years ago, but still, you're just like, everybody has their, special. It's all specialties. Like, if you specialize in something, you do get better at it, and so.
And even similar, kind of like if we would liken powerlifting to what you guys do, I would liken boxing to mixed martial arts. And people are like, how would you do in a boxing match? And I say, you grab an 18-year-old amateur kid, he's going to piece me up in a boxing match because he only focuses on throwing hands, whereas he's 100% time boxing, and I'm like, that's 25% of time boxing, and then 25
people
ground
are like,
and 25.
well, you're super strong doing Olympic lifts, but if I was to go against an Olympic lifter, they would destroy me doing if we were just doing 1 rep max. Now, if it was like, all right, we had 3 or 4 different tests, and one was a run. You maybe do some max reps at a certain weight, and you do a 1 rep max. Then yes, we'd probably beat them. So,
and that's where I'm talking, where you guys are strong.
Yeah, we got to,
but also have to have that muscular endurance too.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of crossover, but in reality, what you really looked at it, we're specializing. We're specializing in fitness, and
it's funny that you guys keep your specializing keeps getting wider and wider, which is cool.
Right.
Especially for the sport. To grow.
I'd like to get out and actually play some sports and do some things. Like we joined or playing in a flag football league. We've been talking about it the last couple of weeks, and it's been fun to get back out there. It's been hard with my knee just to be smart. Yeah. But I forget. You just as a kid, that's the things. Just like getting out and playing sports. It's so much fun. I can't wait for the kids to get a little bit older and be able to do that type of stuff. Yeah. So you miss out on that being. And everybody gets so caught up in the games are coming up. You should really be careful, and I'm like, but that's not how I've lived my life. When I started getting cautious, that's when I got hurt.
What's funny is, have you heard of Cowboy Cerrone, Donald Cerrone?
I feel like I've heard that name.
Kind of funny. Sure. I mean, you would know. He's been a long time guy, and he's funny. He reminds me of you too, where Cowboy Cerrone is the kind of guy who would be good wakeboarding and riding dirt bikes and stuff.
Doing that a couple weeks ago, actually.
Or actually, he would drive his RV into Las Vegas, and Lake Mead's right outside of Las Vegas, and he would be taking his boat out there. He'd pull his boat all the way out there and be doing backflips and stuff on Lake Mead the week of the fight.
I did that. It was a couple weeks ago. We were out with some friends for Memorial Day. Yeah. And we go out wake surfing usually because I'm old, and I wakeboarded a ton when I was younger. And we got out there, and usually the wives are out there, and I'm like, I shouldn't do this, and I'm not going to wakeboard. Well, this time it was just the guys and the younger kids, and so they're 10 and 11, and they're like, they said you used to be able to wakeboard, and I'm like, yeah, I used to be able to, and they're
used to.
All right, let's give it a shot. And so I get out there, and Matt, the guy that's pulling the boat, he's like, maybe you just kind of ride around for a little bit, and maybe in August after the games you come back out and maybe try to do some tricks. I'm like, yeah, it's probably a good idea. And in my head, that's what I was thinking. Well, I get out there, and I'm like, nah, I can't do that. First jump, I backflip. I was like, all right, still got it.
Tasia was like, did you see Rich's Instagram? What's he trying to do? Trying to destroy his knees.
I know it's all out. I know it's all out there on the gram these days.
It's so dumb, the things you have to do where you're like, I still got it. Let me see if I still got it.
That's part of your success, though, is like what you're saying is just going forward, getting out there on the edge, pushing yourself.
Yeah, just stay young. I mean, because I truly think too, and too as a father, you get this too. What you used to be when it was just you and your wife and you just competed and that was it. Now you've turned into so big, this much stuff, right? And I think, and I say it a lot with mixed martial artists because people love to project what they feel and project it on you too. And they're like, oh man, as soon as I hit 30, shoot, man, my knees and my back and my this and my that, my reaction time. And I'm like, well, that's you, and that's cool.
Different, yeah.
But it's like, but you do start to realize as a father and a husband and gym owner and all that kind of stuff, which I'm all those things too now. You're just like, holy cow, you have so much stuff going on, and you can see how easily it would be if you didn't have that itch to work out every day. If you were a guy a guy who was okay with taking a week off, and then you take 2 weeks off, and then you miss your body work for 3 weeks, and all of a sudden you get back in the gym, you get hurt, and then you get,
just adds up.
And it's very easy to get into that lethargy, if you will, and then idle hands are the devil's playground, right? And it can very easily keep on taking a toll on your career. So those kinds of things where you're like, I still got it.
Even
if it's just like little stupid things,
like
you're like, still got it. I was back at my wife's parents and my son. We were jumping on the trampoline. He fell in love with the trampoline. And I was like, let me see if I can do a backflip. Yeah. Okay, let me see if I can do 3 in a row. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, I still got it. I'm done. I'm done.
You just need that one.
I kind of felt my knee. I was like, it didn't feel like it used to, but like,
we're still here.
I did it. We're still here.
Yeah.
How many muscle ups did you do in a row today?
I think it was like 47.
Yeah, Tasha coached you up.
He's like, I don't know if I can. I've done one before. Can you guys kind of help me out? And I was like, Tasha, get on that. He knocked out 3 in a row. I was like, what do you mean you can't do it?
She said one thing, let's swing a little or something.
Well, because I was watching you and you were, I'm like, looking like a trapeziist or whatever. I'm like, I don't know about that. I'll rip my back in half. But yeah, but I also probably didn't do it right either. So I don't know.
No, they were
pretty
good.
They
were a lot better than, like, a lot of people when they're like, oh, I've gotten a muscle up before. And it's usually the, like, one arm and then it looks like they're about to tear their rotator cuff and, like, the ring's out here. And yours were just like, no, I got this, so you're good.
I'll take it. Well, I did feel my shoulder. I was like, let's go ahead and I was good.
Still got it.
I was good. Still got it. Exactly.
Still got it.
I came to the world of CrossFit, and I was able to do almost everything you guys did with much lower weights. So
Scaled.
Shoot, the microphone's on. They heard me.
We were just RX plus. He was RX. You're RX plus. You're good.
So, but no, it was good though. I mean. But that's what I live for though too. And today, truthfully, which I appreciate you guys letting me come and do this, like this was me being able to go into your world. And like I said, granted, I'm not saying that I did what you did, even close to it, in any of that stuff. But
you're right there.
But just going in there and being able to just do something different.
Like I haven't jumped right in. Was like power clean no complaints, no nothing.
And I haven't swam in forever either. My goodness. Like
what did you say? Like, how long's it been since you swam?
I mean, an actual like workout. I mean, I swam one time 2 training camps ago, and I did like 6. I'm gonna do 20 laps. It was gonna be a good workout, and I did like 3, and realized I was about to die. Did like 2 or 3 more, and I was like, you know what? Let's go sit in the sauna. Yeah, that'd be a good idea, right? One of those, the old sauna backup plan, right?
Yeah, so man, that's what I used to do. Exactly. I remember like now looking at the swims we do. I'm like, man, one time we had this girl that would teach us how to swim, and we did a 50. And getting back to the wall on a 50, you get that feeling like you're gonna piss your pants, like your legs start to like go numb. You're like, I'm gonna die. Touch the wall. I can't. Just to think about the workouts we used to do compared to now, swimming it's special.
It's cool though too, man. I was like, I felt like part of the clan too, or the part of the group too, because it wasn't in a swimming pool. We were at your pop's pond.
Not many people swim at that pond.
That's cool, man.
So part of the crew now.
So. Before we get away from it, what would you guys say to somebody young trying to get into CrossFit or MMA? What would be, I know there'll be a lot of young people are going to watch this for sure with the two of you on this. So give some advice to a kid that's...
Mine is the same as usual, is like play as many sports as you can growing up. Use CrossFit kind of as a training tool and, get stronger, do that type of stuff, but play as many different sports as you can. Once you get to high school, you probably start specializing a little bit more, but even if you can play 3 or 4 sports, do it. And then once you've exhausted all opportunities in playing sports, whether that's college or whatever it is, then start concentrating on competing or but make sure you're doing everything right first. Moving weights well, but yeah, have as big of a base as you can in different athletic endeavors.
That's exactly what I would say too with mixed martial arts is because I would draw back to the becoming as competitive as you can. I mean, you had that leg up having 25,
First cousins.
First cousins, man. Just being able to compete, whether it's soccer, t-ball, wrestling, whatever it is, become as good of a competitor as you can.
Yep.
And then obviously mine, I will admit, is more biased, but I think the sport of wrestling, when it comes to physically but also mentally what you go through in the sport of wrestling, I had never been in a fight before, never thrown a punch before in my entire life until I started fighting at 22, went right into pro fighting, and then won my first 12 fights, won my first world title within a year and a half. And that's only because of the sport of wrestling. You know, God has blessed me with some great athletic gifts, but it was all harbored and exposed through the sport of wrestling. So if you're a young mixed martial artist and you want to become a mixed martial artist someday, number one, make sure you wrestle. So because you're not gonna learn more about the body and manipulating the body, and it's not just about picking people up and putting them down. It's being able to control another person's body, and then make sure you don't get in there and spar too hard because you can only take so many punches to the head. I love the fact that I used to get headbutted and all that kind of stuff in wrestling, but I never really took a square punch to the head until I was 22 years old, which is really nice, and I've been able to carry it on into now a 10-year career. Because of not taking all that damage. So you could fall into the trap of, start boxing at 12 and 13 and 14 or something, and then you really start sparring hard in your teenage years, and you're getting your little brain that's still developing hit, because the human body's only got so many punches it can take.
Wow. Wow.
Interesting.
The other really big thing that you guys have in common is adoption. And I know that you prior to kind of coming up here, you'd seen some of the videos, and that was something. I told you,
I texted you. I was crying when I was watching. I was watching the Fittest Man. I was like, texting. I was like, dang man, this is, because obviously adoption is. I didn't mean to cut you off, by the way. Was that?
No.
Okay.
No,
adoption was, So my wife,
36.
Actually, in her like teenage years, she volunteered at an inner city mission, so she would take these little kids on dates to McDonald's or this or that and the other thing. She always wanted to adopt a little African American boy, and that was since she was 14 years old. God put it on her heart, and we got together, and it was one of those things that she told me about, and I was like, yeah, definitely, but it didn't really become real until she really started realizing that she's like, God is really putting this on the heart. I'm like, first, we're going to adopt first. So we decided to adopt first because we don't have any children of our own, or we hadn't had any children of our own to start. And then, so we went through the process, and I was still going through it. And she was so gracious, and she was so patient with me because it took me a second, the idea of it all, it's a big step, And then we kind of went through it, and I felt the clarity. I got the clarity, prayed about it a ton, and sought out wise counsel and talking to different people about it. And then it was crazy. We got an email that congratulations, you're eligible to adopt. And then 6 minutes later, we got a phone call that said, congratulations, you're eligible to adopt. By the way, there's this case down in Dallas, Texas. We'll send you a picture of this, that, and the other thing. We essentially had like 6 or 8 hours. We needed to present or say yes by 8 o'clock that night to be able to present the next morning. From the time we got the email to us being in Dallas, Texas was about a 3-day process. So it was just like it happened so quickly.
Been there, yeah.
Yeah, so quickly, and it has just been and we actually signed on the dotted line before we had even met him. It was a thing, and I saw a picture of him. And that was when I realized, I knew that was my son. I started tearing up, started crying right there, and I said, let's do it. We're going, that's my son. The next day we were on a phone call. 2 days later we were in Dallas. The rest is history.
How's it changed your life? What's the perspective?
Well, it is our our first child, so it's everything changes, but you have so much more to live for now, so much more to fight for, so much more to compete for, so much more to live for, and I liken it to I'm painting this masterpiece that someday with every little brush stroke he will be able to see who his dad was or is, and not just who I am about what I tell him I am, but what I really am excited about is him seeing
these kinds of things, and him hearing about me through his peers or kids at school or videos he may see or documentaries or whatever, to be able to paint that picture of who I am, because it's one thing to tell somebody something, but it's another thing to hear it from someone else, and it's just been awesome. He's almost 2.5 now, and he is a bundle of joy, and he's the happiest human being on the planet. So
he's about the same
as Trice. Yeah, and almost a similar story. Trice, we'd been through a couple failed adoptions. Everybody knows about Lakeland and through the movie, but in Trice we had a couple failed adoptions, and I was to the point where I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I can't watch Hillary go through this. And she made me sign one last thing, and I was like, all right, sure, this is it, but this is it. And then we found out that night that we were one of 20 families. Later on that night, we found we were one of 5. Then even later that night, they were like, hey, how soon can you get to Jacksonville? So the next morning, we were in Jacksonville, Florida.
The clock has
it's there.
All night.
It's there. And then Violet, similar story, her birth mom called, and Hillary stays in touch, and she was like, hey, I had another baby and can't keep her. Would you guys take her? And we were like, of course. And so we had 2 within 10 months after that.
Wow.
So chaos, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, Lakeland wants to talk now.
Should I talk?
What do you want to say?
Dad.
All right, my turn. So yeah, it's adoption's it's an incredible thing. It's they're special. Like this one, I was in the room, cut the cord. The other 2, we were a couple days later, but they've been our kids for sure since the day they were born.
And mine is, ours, my son was almost 10 months old.
Oh, okay.
Too. So we skipped the whole baby process, which in
lucky.
Oh yeah,
just kidding.
There's some truth to that, obviously too. As we right away when we got him, he was able to really inflect and raise his eyebrows and smile.
Oh yeah, 10 months is when it gets fun.
Oh yeah, so it was kind of cool.
I'm horrible, and they're under 6 months. Hillary gets so mad at me. She's like, "Why don't you hold them?" I'm like, "They're asleep. Why would I pick them up and wake them up?"
It's a dad thing though too.
Yeah,
it's
hard for me.
True, yeah.
It's hard for her to realize why. I'm like, because Violet, our youngest, had colic, and she was hard. 16 hours a day she would cry, literally from the time we got her till she was about 4 or 5 months old, and she would just cry and cry and cry. And so Hillary would go, and Hillary was great with it because she's super patient about that stuff. Where I'm just like, there's nothing I can do. She's gonna cry, and so Hillary would go take a shower. She'd be crying the entire time, and so she couldn't relax. Well, she'd come out. She'd be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm sitting here," because she'd literally just be on my shoulder, screaming, crying, and I just had subtitles on the TV, watching TV, screaming, crying, because I can block that out. It is, with her, when she would cry, I was like, "Oh, what's wrong? What I gotta do?" With by the third, I'm like, "Yeah, she's fine." And I tried walking with her, I tried rocking her, I tried giving her a bottle. She wasn't hungry, she wasn't wet, she wasn't cold, and so she's gonna cry. I'm just gonna, what's the point in both of us being extremely uncomfortable? Let her cry. And Hillary would get so mad at me because I'd just sit there and she'd be screaming in my ear, and I'm just like, all right.
That's good. Be able to block it out.
Yeah, be able to block it out.
Skill.
That's good. It's a very fine-tuned skill. Everybody's like, why are you so patient? I'm like, if you only knew.
I saw a post that you put up the other day on your Instagram. It was a Father's Day post.
Oh yeah.
And there was a cool perspective. Just that was your dad hugging you, and now you're in that spot.
Yeah, it's kind of cool too. And I think I said, now I know what every hug meant to you, because you never, dad's hugging you, and it's like whatever. It's just another hug from your dad. Yeah. Of course you love your dad. You look up to him. Yeah. You have our perspective for your dad, but for him, it's like what I feel when I hug Hap, and I just want to.
Now you get it.
Just kiss.
Makes sense.
Now you get it. Now I know exactly what every single hug felt like to him. And it was funny too, because it's like the same thing. The head was on the same side. It's like, man,
that was a cool post.
Crazy perspective. 30 years later.
Yeah. How do you think that's made you better?
Well, I think it has just given me more of a purpose, and you really realize you really realize that. Of course, you want to provide, and you want to protect, and you want to serve, and you want to love, but it just becomes so much more real once you have a child. I love and want to protect and serve and build up my wife, but she was also an adult. You know, it's one thing. I love her and I will live for her, but also having a child it's different too. It's a helpless little child, and and it's also, I look at it too, you know, every single thought that he thinks, the way that he sees himself, whether or not he ends up being who he is going to be, is largely dependent on me and my wife. You know, and that's what people taking parenthood lightly is an epidemic. And it's a tough thing, because it is so much more important than we all think it is. It's more important than I think it is, and I think it's extremely important. I think we haven't even scratched the surface about how important it is. And to be a man, to be a father, is it's the greatest responsibility I will ever have in my entire life, and nothing will ever surpass it. And I can never accomplish anything that will make me feel as great as. Yeah. I mean, I cried. He made me tear up yesterday. It was like for no reason. He just did something, and I started to, you're like, what in the world is going on? It's
get soft. Get soft.
It's like but it's just, for those that don't have children, which this is what we always heard. Well, wait till you have children.
Wait till you have kids,
it's so much different in this system. I'm like, I'm sure it's cool, but it's not that big of a deal. And then it just takes your heart and just goes.
Well, you have positioned your entire life.
Oh yeah, my kids can go wherever, and 99% of the time they're with me, or can go with me if they want to, and so it's pretty awesome. Lakeland actually wanted me to bring up the fact that, because we were talking with Hillary, that she's afraid of the bison that are not Lakeland. Hillary says the bison are going to jump the fence and eat our kids. So Lakeland thinks that's hilarious.
Herbivores?
Yeah, herbivores.
These are carnivore. These are
carnivore bison.
Carnivore bison.
Yeah, she loves telling people that story, that my mom says the bison are going to jump the fence and eat our kids. And she says eat our kids, not eat us.
Oh.
You think it's funny?
Is that funny?
You saw some bison last week, didn't you? They were super tame, and they licked your fingers and
you got the
ate some bread out of your hand, right?
There we go.
Yeah, so she wanted to
I'm gonna go
into the
play with the
podcast.
bison.
That's important.
Whenever you guys get them.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
The thing with being a parent is, you don't understand. I never really quite understood unconditional love. People piss you off. Like, if they piss you off enough, they're dead to me, type deal. Whereas these guys can do whatever, the meanest thing, or do whatever, and then 2 minutes later they come up and give you a hug, and you're like, all right, I forgot about that.
Well, and selflessness.
Selflessness.
You feel that sense of selflessness whenever you get married and you want to serve and love and just do things for your spouse. But then it's even bigger and even more tenfold when you have a child, because, like I said, your spouse is an adult. And he or she can handle. Yeah. They can handle. If you're busy, she can handle it. Go, do your thing. Well, I have to get this done. But whenever he comes up and it's like, okay, well, I don't exactly have to get this done. Is this really going to put a dent in the universe, or is the eye contact and the intentional love that's
really going to mess up? Yeah.
So it's I'm winging it every day.
Oh yeah.
something that I really admire about you and your parenting is that you've decided that you're going to parent and you're going to do it your way.
Right.
And I know I was that way big time with my kids.
It cracks me up when people come here and they're like, "You're letting them do that?"
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to hurt. I forgot. EC yesterday, she was here and the kids were just running around, out towards the fence, and she was just like, I'm like, I can see them. They'll be all right. They're not going to make walk a half mile to the road. Like, we'll be all right. Yeah, they got to learn a little bit. As long as it's not super dangerous. We were joking that Trey the other day was like, I'm pretty sure Trice could spend an entire day out in the woods and be completely fine. Mm-hmm. Like, just eating sticks and just fending for himself. Like, that's the way he is, because he's just a dude. He's just there,
But you've given him permission.
Oh yeah, heck yeah! Just
without even
free reign.
Not like you gave him permission,
right?
Like he think, oh, my daddy let me. You've given him permission to live that way.
Yeah.
And truthfully, that's the helicopter parents. The helicopter parents out there. I'm not trying to tell people how to do their, but let them go out there. Like I said, and I said this too. Like, I can't wait till you know, my son plays t-ball and he fails and he falls and he, you know, all these things where you can just say, man, this is life and this is fun. Yeah, you know, oh, you ran into that tree and it poked your eye, like that's life.
This one gets so mad when she's trying to figure something out, and I'm like, just practice. You're right. I am practicing. I'm like, calm down. I'm like, you'll be all right. Like she was trying to jump rope the one day, and she was so mad that we could do like 5 or 6, and then I'm like, just keep practicing. I am practicing.
Sounds like
I was getting coffee the other day, and
just like it.
this guy was sitting next to me, and I'd talked to him a couple of times at the coffee shop, and said, "Man, how's your weekend?" And he said, I just welcomed my 3rd grandson into the world. And he began to talk about what a powerful weekend that he had, and what the children thing for me was, I love my wife like crazy, and then there was more room for a daughter, which I didn't know if there was more room, right? Because and then I loved her with such an intensity that I didn't think it was going to be possible for another one. Yeah, and then all of a sudden Brittany was there, and I loved her, and then this guy is saying, I'm telling you right now, grandkids are even better, like what it's done.
That's crazy. You can't fathom it right now.
But before, it was like what you're saying, like I have kids, and now I'm like, okay, look, I'm ready. How cool would that be?
But I can see that though. Like imagine that little trinket or thing that she built from school, and you bring it home. You're so proud of her for that little thing. Yeah. Now imagine when she actually brings a child into the world. I mean, you're so proud of that.
That's what he's saying.
Grandchild, but you love her so much. Like I can see it
exponentially.
Obviously, it's far down the line right now.
I'm like, well, for me, that both my daughters they've got guys that they really are into, and I'm beginning to think about what an incredible addition to life that will be. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if we pay attention to this and we're intentional about it, then our children and our grandchildren end up being something we can be proud of, and it grows. And if we do our job as men in that space, we have something that is part of heritage and who we are as people that we leave on the earth. I think it's important. And what you were saying earlier is sometimes, man, I'm just being honest, dudes don't do a good enough job of
I think it's a bold statement, but I think so much hurt in the world and so much of the downfall of mankind can be somewhere or another traced back to the downfall of, and the lack of fathers and men being men and stepping up and taking responsibility for their actions and really caring about their offspring, caring about their vocation, caring about their calling in their life. And it's obviously it's to all of us, it's important to us because we are men and we see our co-workers, or we see our co-teammates or our friends, or we see it on the news, or we hear of these things, and so much of it. Also, once again, too, you can think about an individual person, but most likely that person was influenced by a father. And it's just, like you said, the lineage, and it's this cycle that will continue until someone breaks it. And it's just like anything. It's just like a disease until you find a cure, or it's just like a organization that is being in turmoil until someone can make a fix.
My oldest daughter she's old enough now to kind of look back at what's happened in life, and I know for me, I'm only where I'm at because of all the mistakes I made. I mean, I really didn't have it figured out. I made so many mistakes. And she came to me at one point here a couple of years ago and said, "Hey, Dad, you know what the most important thing you ever did for me was?" And I'm super excited to hear what she's getting to say because there was a lot that went on in 26 years. And she just said, "You never quit trying. You gave me your time." And when I start talking about being a good dad, it's not that I didn't make a ton of mistakes, because I did. And I'm guilty of taking my problems and putting it on them and having to say I'm sorry. But I kept stepping back up. Yeah. Keep trying. Keep it being something that's you're aiming at every day. And kids are resilient.
Yeah.
And
they are, and it is hard too, because my wife is actually, I'm not gonna say worse at it than me, but she, as the mother too, and maybe your wife feels this way too, is they feel like they were the main caretaker. Like whenever you're in a job screaming, she wants to fix it. So my wife's a big time fixer. Yeah. Whereas you can be like, well, that's all right. It'll fix it.
She gets so mad at me with triceps. She's like, pick him up. He's crying. I'm like, He's fine. He just barely fell. Like, she gets so mad.
Trying to make sure you don't put too much pressure on yourself because we talked about this too. The more you get, and parenthood is part of it, and opening businesses and this, that, and another thing, it just gets so big that there's so many things to take care of that you actually can't be perfect and successful in all of those things per day. You're constantly failing at something. You constantly put so much pressure on yourself to be a perfect parent and a perfect this and a perfect man and a perfect athlete and a perfect leader, and you're going to fail every single day at something. But you have to just be able to go from failure to failure and realize that. And this is what I said too. I use the hashtag success, not perfection, all the time. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be successful. 5 years from now, I don't need to be perfect. I just need to be successful at my next 5 years. Today, I don't need to be perfect. I just needed to be successful. I was absolutely successful. Was I perfect? Absolutely not. I'm probably going to be late to date night right now. Tonight, whenever, or I wasn't able to do the power cleaner, or whatever, So it's like I wasn't perfect. Today was moving forward, and you can be happy, right? And you can. So that's because the downfall of my first loss and then the subsequent losses after that have always been me trying to be perfect. And when you try to be perfect, you're always going to fall short because there was only one perfect person that ever screwed this earth.
The Mayhem mindset, we have a very similar philosophy, and it's excellence, not perfection. Excellence is something I can aim at every day. Excellence leaves room for mistakes, and we're only going to learn if we make mistakes. I don't want to make them twice, but it's something I can keep aiming at. And this idea of trying to be perfect is going to leave you pretty frustrated because it's not perfect.
Exactly, and part of excellence too is admitting that you're not perfect. So much of maturity is just realizing that every single person that you look up to, all the young CrossFitters right now, looking up to you like you're this perfect god of CrossFit.
Screwed up many times.
Yet every single person that you ever have looked up to in your life has at one point or another been a failure at that exact moment. But failure is an event, not a person. And you continue to move forward. And that's why people are successful, because they are okay with realizing that not being perfect will propel them as close to perfection as you possibly can.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's your, we got about 5 minutes probably. What's your kind of mindset, your main focus? If you were to give everybody a message and how you're approaching your life, your relationships, the fighting career that you have.
I would go back to what we just talked about, trying to just focus on success, not perfection. Every day, what can I do to be successful? A big business, successful businessman, friend of mine, Dave Meltzer, said, what can I do today to ensure that I'm in business tomorrow? Not what can I do today to make $1 million or be on the 500, Forbes 500, whatever. What can I do today to ensure that I'm in business tomorrow? So focus on success, not perfection. Secondly, we have to give ourselves permission to be the best. I was not taught to be the best. I was not raised in a way that said, Michael, you can go outside of that county line and do amazing things with your life. I was taught security. I was taught safety. I was taught living a life that wasn't too far outside of your comfort zone. That way you didn't fail. So you have to give yourself permission to be successful, and you do that by building the belief in yourself, by constantly surrounding yourself with the right people. That's what I would say is the third thing. Surround yourself with like-minded people. Surround yourself. And the good thing is, in 2019, we don't even have to surround yourself. You guys don't have to be in this room to surround yourself with us and our words and our, the viewers can hear what we're saying and take that and use it. And one of the greatest men to ever walk this earth, Zig Ziglar, said, you can have everything you want in life if you will help enough other people get what they want in life. And you're living that right now with your gym and being able to build these people up, because there is no greater feeling in this world than an act of service. And the act of service of taking somebody. My goal is to have as many people as I possibly can point to me and say, because of that man right there, I was able to accomplish something. Even people who have never met me, I've had so many people say, because of you, or because of this, or because of that, I was able to believe in myself, or accomplish this, or 5x my business, or do this, or do that. And that's where the real significance comes in. So focus on success, not perfection. Surround yourself with the right people. give yourself permission to be the best, because at the end of the day, somebody has to be the best. You have to ask yourself, why shouldn't it be you?
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
and
I love it. How do people kind of get a hold of you social media wise? And
I'm Mike Chandler MMA on all my social media. Heavy on Instagram. Need to get into more YouTube stuff, a little bit on Twitter.
want to get a good workout, come down to
Training camp Nashville. Yeah, so we have a 10,000 square foot facility, group fitness, personal training, mixed martial arts, wrestling, all that kind of stuff. So it's a fun time. We're right there in Nashville, in the heart of, right across the river near downtown Nashville. So so it's.
Is that by CrossFit gym?
Oh, that's by CrossFit East Nashville.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
we did that. We're for we're right. Yeah.
Right there.
They're in the building.
Yeah, it's all the same. I'm on. You actually
go karts?
Yeah. So you passed my sign. There's a big black sign that said training camp.
Yeah.
And then you drive around. Yeah. So we're gonna keep this going, man. We're gonna do cross training. It's a little MMA.
Beat us up a little bit.
Yeah,
That would be fun.
That'd be kind of fun, actually. As long as you don't hurt us.
After the games, that one we will wait for after the games. That one we will wait.
You're gonna end up with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Did you see?
Yeah, I know, right?
Bringing punches.
I know, right?
No, but I mean, it is cool though too. I mean, I'll come out here too. I'll bring some pads, hit some pads, that kind of stuff. Just little different things, stuff that gets you. I mean, you're always constantly pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, but it is always good to do something different. Just a different feel. Like today, I felt different than I ever could in any other workout.
Right, exactly.
You know, in my training with the swimming,
Get out of your comfort zone.
It's cool.
Awesome, Michael. Appreciate you coming out, man.
Thank you.
Do it again. Episode 70, Trifecta, RP Strength. Check out their app and CrossFitMayhem.com. New stuff. Check out all Michael's stuff. No, you don't have a fight schedule yet, right?
No fight schedule. Hopefully, I'm off all summer and November, December. Time off.
Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Man, this was cool. This was very, very fun. So, yes.
Peace.